The stars had been his only companions for 17 million years. Zephyr floated in his crystal chamber, watching the endless dance of light across the void. His body had long since faded away, leaving only his mind trapped in the glowing stone that kept him alive. Around him, the massive space station hummed with quiet power, its ancient machines still working after all these ages. He remembered when his people filled the galaxy. The keepers had been proud and strong, building great cities among the stars. They had sworn to protect all life from the dark things that lurked between worlds. But one by one, his people had grown tired. They could not have children in the cold emptiness of space. They grew sad and lonely, until each chose to sleep forever rather than continue their watch. Only Zephyr remained, bound by duty and the last law his people had made. He must guard the galaxy until another race proved worthy to take his place. But in 17 million years, no one had come. Many species had grown smart and built ships to travel between stars. He had watched them all. Some were kind, others were cruel. None had shown the strength his people once had. His consciousness spread across thousands of defense stations scattered through space. Each one watched for signs of the great enemy that slept in the dark. The Void Swarm had been defeated long ago, but they were not destroyed. They waited on dead worlds and empty moons, ready to wake and consume everything in their path. Only Zephyr's network kept them sleeping. On this day, like so many others, he felt something new enter his territory. A small ship moved between the stars, different from any he had seen before. It was rough and simple, built with care but not great skill. The beings inside were young in the ways of space travel. He could sense their excitement as they explored, their wonder at the vast universe around them. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, looking at the strange readings on his screen. His ship was far from Earth, exploring regions that no human had ever seen. The crew of 25 had been in space for 8 months, mapping new stars and looking for signs of other life. "Captain, I'm getting some odd signals from that system ahead," said Dr. Lisa Kane from her science station. She was a thin woman with short brown hair, always excited by new discoveries. "There's something artificial out there, something big." Jake leaned forward in his chair. He was a steady man in his 40s, chosen to lead this mission because he could stay calm when things went wrong. "How big are we talking about?" "The energy readings suggest a structure at least 10 miles across. Maybe bigger. It's been there for a very long time, but it's still active." Security Chief Ryan Brooks looked up from his weapons console. He was younger than the captain, with the build of a soldier and eyes that always watched for danger. "Could be a trap, sir. We don't know what's out here." "Everything's a risk when you're exploring," Jake said. "But that's why we came. Set course for the structure. All hands, stay alert." The ship changed direction, moving toward the mysterious signals. In the engine room, Maya Foster worked at her controls, keeping the old ship running smooth. She was good with machines, able to fix almost anything with simple tools and clever thinking. At the communications station, Tony Martinez listened to the strange signals, trying to understand their meaning. As they got closer, the structure became visible on their screens. It was huge and beautiful, made of some kind of metal that gleamed like silver. Strange symbols covered its surface, and lights pulsed along its edges in patterns that seemed almost alive. "I've never seen anything like it," Lisa whispered. "The design is completely alien but somehow familiar, like it was made by people who thought the same way we do." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. After months of finding only empty worlds and dead space, they had finally found proof that other intelligent life existed. "Can you scan it safely?" "I think so. The energy patterns seem stable, no weapons that I can detect." "Do it." The Aurora's edge sent out its scanning beams, probing the ancient station with invisible fingers of energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire structure blazed with light. Systems that had waited in darkness for millions of years suddenly came alive. The humans watched in amazement and fear as the alien station responded to their presence. Deep within his crystal chamber, Zephyr felt the touch of the scanning beam like a gentle hand on his face. For the first time in 3 million years, someone was trying to communicate with him. The sensation was so strange that for a moment he could not think clearly. He had grown used to being alone, to watching without being seen. He reached out with his mind, touching the small ship that had found him. The beings inside were unlike any he had encountered before. Their thoughts blazed with curiosity and courage. They were afraid, but they did not run. Instead, they tried to understand what they had found. These creatures called themselves humans. They came from a small blue world far away, and they had only recently learned to travel between stars. They were young and weak compared to the great races he had known, but something about them was different. They worked together without being forced to. They cared for each other even when it cost them something. They faced the unknown with hope instead of fear. Zephyr made a decision that would change everything. For 17 million years, he had watched in silence. But these humans deserved to know what they had found. They deserved to know about the dangers that waited in the dark, and the guardian who had kept them safe. Slowly, carefully, he began to reach out to them. The air on the bridge of the Aurora's edge shimmered and twisted. The crew watched in shock as a figure made of light began to form in the center of the room. It was tall and thin, with features that looked almost human but somehow older and sadder than anything they had ever seen. "Do not be afraid," the figure said, its voice echoing strangely in their minds rather than their ears. "I have been waiting a very long time to speak with someone." Captain Jake Morrison stepped forward, his hand resting on his sidearm but not drawing it. "Who are you? What do you want from us?" The figure looked at him with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of ages. "My name is Zephyr. I am what remains of a people called the Keepers. I have been alone here for longer than your species has existed." Dr. Lisa Kane moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "How long exactly?" 17 million of your years. I have watched your sun form and grow stable. I have seen life begin on your world and grow into what you are now." The bridge fell silent. The humans looked at each other, trying to understand what they were hearing. Ryan Brooks kept his hand near his weapon, still not trusting this strange being. "Why are you here?" Jake asked. "What is your purpose?" Zephyr's form flickered slightly as if the effort of maintaining it was difficult. "I guard this galaxy from something terrible. Something that sleeps, but is not dead. My people called it the Void Swarm." "What is the Void Swarm?" Lisa asked, pulling out her recording device. "Machines. Ancient beyond measure, created by a race that died before my people were born. They consume everything they touch, turning planets and stars into more of themselves. They spread like a disease across the galaxy until my people stopped them." Maya Foster spoke up from her engineering station. "If your people stopped them, why do you still need to guard against them?" Zephyr's expression grew even sadder. "Because we did not destroy them. We only made them sleep. They lie buried on dead worlds, hidden in empty space, waiting for the right signal to wake them up. My network of stations keeps them quiet, but if I ever stop watching, they will rise again." Tony Martinez had been listening to the strange signals coming from the alien station. "The patterns I'm hearing, they're like a giant web covering thousands of star systems. You're connected to all of it?" "Yes. My consciousness spans across defense platforms throughout this region of space. I see everything, protect everything, but I can touch nothing." Zephyr looked at his hands, which were made of light and could hold nothing real. "This is my punishment for being the last of my kind." Jake felt a deep sadness for this ancient being. "What happened to your people? Why are you alone?" "We were guardians, protectors of all life in the galaxy. But the work was hard and lonely. We built our stations far from any world, dedicated our lives to watching for danger. We forgot how to live, how to love, how to be happy. One by one, my people chose to end their watch and sleep forever. They could not bear the isolation anymore." Lisa was taking notes rapidly, trying to record everything. "But you stayed. Why?" "Because someone had to. Because the swarm would wake up if no one watched. Because it was my duty." Zephyr's voice was filled with ancient pain. "I thought another race would eventually prove worthy to take our place. But in 17 million years, I have seen many species rise and fall. None had what was needed. What was needed? Ryan asked, still suspicious. The willingness to sacrifice for others. The strength to endure loneliness for the good of all life. The wisdom to put duty before personal happiness. Zephyr looked at each of them in turn. But perhaps I was wrong about what strength really means. Jake stepped closer to the hologram. What do you mean? Your species puzzles me. I have watched you for only a short time, but you are different from others I have seen. When faced with danger, most species either run away or fight only for themselves, but you came here together. You explore as a team. You risk yourselves for knowledge that will help others. Maya stood up from her station. That's just normal for us. We look out for each other. Normal? Zephyr seemed amazed by this. I have watched civilizations that conquered entire star systems, but could not trust their own allies. I have seen races with incredible technology who used it only for their own benefit. But you share your discoveries freely with your home world. You worry about each other's safety before your own. Tony was monitoring communications with Earth. We're getting responses from Home Command. They want to know more about you and this void swarm threat. Zephyr's expression changed to one of alarm. Your people are expanding into space rapidly. Some of your new colonies are very close to worlds where swarm units lie sleeping. If they are disturbed, what would happen? Lisa asked. Though she was afraid of the answer, they would wake up. They would begin converting everything they could reach into more of themselves. Your colonies would be the first to die, but they would not be the last. The entire galaxy would be at risk. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Can you stop them if they wake up? My network was designed to work with my people's technology and tactics. Your ships and weapons are very different. I do not know if I can protect you the same way I protected others. Ryan finally spoke up. Then we need to work together. You have the knowledge and the network. We have ourselves. Zephyr stared at the security chief as if he had said something incredible. You would help me, even knowing the danger? That's what we do, Jake said simply. When someone needs help, we help them. When there's a threat to protect against, we stand together and face it. For the first time in millions of years, Zephyr felt something he had thought was lost forever. Hope began to grow in his ancient heart as he looked at these strange, brave creatures who offered to share his burden without being asked. 3 days after first contact with Zephyr, disaster struck. The Aurora's Edge was exploring a dead planet that the ancient Guardian had warned them about. Dr. Lisa Kane wanted to study the strange metal fragments buried in the planet's surface, hoping to learn more about the Void Swarm. Just a quick scan, she had promised Captain Jake Morrison. We need to understand what we're dealing with. But the scanning beam went too deep. It touched something that had been sleeping for millions of years, and that something woke up. The buried machine rose from the ground like a metal spider the size of a building. Its surface was black and smooth, covered with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. 8 long legs carried it across the dead landscape while sensors on its head searched the sky above. Captain, we've got a problem, Ryan Brooks shouted from his station. That thing is powering up weapons systems. Jake turned to the hologram of Zephyr, who had been helping them explore safely. The ancient Guardian's face was filled with horror. You must leave immediately. That is a swarm scout unit. It will send a signal to wake others. Can you stop it? Jake asked. I am trying, but my weapons on this world were destroyed long ago. My nearest station is too far away to help quickly. The spider machine launched itself into the air on jets of blue flame. Maya Foster worked desperately at her controls, trying to get the Aurora's Edge away from the planet, but the alien machine was faster. Energy beams shot from its weapons, striking the human ship and making it shake violently. Shields are failing, Maya reported. We can't take much more of this. Tony Martinez was working at his communications station, trying to send a warning to Earth. But as he worked, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. Captain, that thing is broadcasting. It's sending out some kind of signal. Zephyr's hologram flickered with emotion. The wake-up call. It is telling other swarm units that prey has been found. They will begin to activate across this entire region of space. The Aurora's edge managed to escape the planet, but the damage was done. Across dozens of star systems, ancient machines buried on forgotten worlds began to stir. Some had been sleeping under ice on dead moons. Others were hidden in asteroid fields or drifting in empty space. All of them received the scout's message and began to wake up. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in the emergency meeting room, listening to reports that seemed impossible to believe. She was a tough woman who had commanded ships for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. "You're telling me that there are millions of hostile machines scattered across our expansion zone?" she asked the communication officer who was relaying Captain Morrison's report. "Yes, ma'am. And according to this alien guardian, they're all starting to wake up." General Chris Peterson, head of Colonial Defense, shook his head. "This could be some kind of trick. We only have the word of one alien that these machines even exist. Sir, our deep space monitors are picking up movement in 17 different systems," reported a young technician. "Unknown objects are leaving planetary surfaces and moving toward our colonies." The first attack came at New Denver, a farming colony of 50,000 people on the edge of human space. Governor Sam Clark was reviewing crop reports when the sky lit up with fire. 3 swarm machines, each the size of a city block, descended from space and began tearing apart everything they found. The colonists fought back with everything they had. Defense Coordinator Emma Walsh organized the militia, using mining equipment and farming tools as weapons. But their simple guns could barely scratch the alien machines. "We need help," Emma radioed to the colonial defense ships in orbit. "These things are too strong for us." Captain Alex Turner commanded the defense ships, 5 small vessels built to protect colonists from pirates, not alien war machines. His ships attacked the swarm units with everything they had, but their weapons seemed to have little effect. "Sir, conventional weapons aren't working," reported his weapons officer. "These machines adapt to whatever we throw at them." But as the battle continued, something strange happened. The swarm machines began to act confused. They had been built to fight the Keepers, who always attacked in careful, logical patterns. But humans fought differently. They took crazy risks to save strangers. They used tactics that made no sense but somehow worked. When one defense ship was badly damaged, instead of retreating, the other 4 ships moved to protect it. When the machines targeted the evacuation centers, civilian cargo ships flew straight into danger to rescue people. The swarm's battle computers could not predict what humans would do next. Emma Walsh noticed this first. "They're hesitating," she told her fighters over the radio. "Every time we do something they don't expect, they pause for a few seconds." Back on the Aurora's edge, Zephyr was watching the battle through his network. He had seen thousands of species fight the swarm over the millions of years, but never like this. "Your people fight with their hearts, not just their minds," he told Captain Morrison. "The swarm cannot understand this." "Can we use that?" Jake asked. "Perhaps, but we need to coordinate. My technology must work with your tactics. I have spent so long alone that I had forgotten how to fight alongside others." Dr. Lisa Kane had been studying the recordings from the battle. "The machines pause when they can't predict our actions. What if we could make them pause longer?" Maya Foster looked up from her engineering station. "I've been thinking about that. What if instead of trying to beat them with better weapons, we confuse them completely? Make them so uncertain they can't function?" Zephyr's expression changed as he considered this. For millions of years he had fought the swarm the same way his people always had, with superior technology and careful planning. But humans fought with something his people had lost: the bonds that connected them to each other. "This could work," he said slowly. "But it will require perfect cooperation between my network and your fleets. I would need to share my consciousness more completely with your commanders than I have ever done with anyone." Jake looked at his crew, seeing the determination in their eyes. "What do you need from us?" "Trust," Zephyr said simply. "I must link my mind to your tactical systems. I will feel what you feel, think as you think. It terrifies me, but it may be the only way to save both our peoples." As reports came in of more swarm awakenings across human space, the ancient guardian made a choice that would change him forever. After 17 million years of solitude, he would finally allow himself to truly connect with other beings. The link was unlike anything Zephyr had ever experienced. When he connected his mind to the human tactical network, he suddenly felt emotions he had forgotten existed. Through Commander Alex Turner's eyes, he saw the battle for New Denver not as numbers and statistics, but as real people fighting for their lives. He felt Turner's fear when a swarm machine targeted a school full of children. He experienced the commander's determination as he ordered his damaged ship between the alien weapon and the innocent people below. Most shocking of all, he felt Turner's love for people he had never even met. Strangers he was willing to die, to protect. "This is how you always fight?" Zephyr asked through the communication link that Tony Martinez had set up between all human forces. "This is how we live," Turner replied, even as his ship shook under enemy fire. "We look out for each other, always." The connection spread as more human ships joined the network. Captain Julie Adams commanded the cargo vessel Defiant, which she had turned into a rescue ship. She flew through enemy fire again and again, pulling survivors from destroyed buildings and carrying them to safety. When her ship's engines were damaged, she used the hull as a shield to protect evacuation shuttles. Commander Rick Sullivan led the military ship Vanguard, working with civilian volunteers who had never seen battle before. Teachers, farmers, and shopkeepers stood beside trained soldiers, all fighting to save their world. When ammunition ran low, they shared what they had. When someone was injured, others took their place without being asked. Through the network, Zephyr experienced all of it. He felt their pain when friends were hurt. He shared their joy when civilians were saved. He understood their anger at seeing homes destroyed and their hope that tomorrow would be better than today. For the first time in millions of years, he was not alone with his thoughts. The effect on the battle was immediate. With Zephyr's ancient knowledge guiding their tactics and human emotion driving their decisions, the combined forces began to turn the tide. The swarm machines, built to fight logical opponents, could not adapt to attacks that combined perfect planning with passionate sacrifice. Dr. Lisa Kane, working from the Aurora's edge, made a breakthrough discovery. "The machines are trying to learn from us, but they can't understand why we do what we do. They see Turner risk his ship to save strangers and their computers crash trying to figure out the benefit." Maya Foster was working day and night to combine Keeper technology with human ships. "It's not just about better weapons," she told the engineering teams across the fleet. "Zephyr's systems work because they care about protecting life. Our systems work because we care about each other. Together, they're stronger than either could be alone." But the real change was happening to Zephyr himself. Through his connections with thousands of humans, he began to understand what his people had lost. The Keepers had become so focused on their duty that they forgot why duty mattered. They protected life, but they stopped living. A message came from a small girl named Lucy on New Denver. She had drawn a picture of Zephyr as a shining knight protecting her family. "Thank you for keeping us safe," her message said. "You don't have to be alone anymore. You can be part of our family too." The ancient guardian felt something break inside his crystal heart. He had spent 17 million years believing that sacrifice meant suffering and isolation, but these humans showed him that the greatest sacrifice was sharing yourself with others, even when it hurt. More swarm machines awakened across human space, but now the defense was ready. Fleets of mixed human and Keeper-enhanced ships met them in battle. The key was not superior firepower, but the connection between all the defenders. Pilots who had never met worked together like old friends. Commanders shared resources without counting the cost. Scientists gave away their discoveries to help others succeed. Through it all, Zephyr was there, his consciousness touching every ship, every person, every decision. He guided weapons fire with million-year-old wisdom, while human hearts chose the targets that mattered most. He provided shield harmonics calculated across eons, while human courage decided who to protect first. The swarm's central intelligence, deep in its hidden fortress, began to realize that something had changed. The humans were not fighting like any species it had encountered before. They seemed to grow stronger when they were threatened, more united when they were afraid, more dangerous when they were protecting others. But more troubling was the presence it sensed behind the human tactics. The old enemy, the Keeper Guardian, it had fought so long ago, was different now. No longer cold and distant, it blazed with the same passion as the humans it protected. The swarm's calculations, perfected over millions of years, suddenly seemed incomplete. Captain Jake Morrison received the crucial intelligence from deep space monitors. "We've found it," he announced to the combined fleet. "The source of the swarm signals. There's a massive structure at the galaxy's core built around a black hole. That's where their main intelligence is hiding." Zephyr's voice came through every speaker in the fleet. "I have known of this place for ages, but I could never attack it alone. My people tried once and failed. It is protected by thousands of swarm units and powered by the black hole itself." "What do you need from us?" Turner asked from his battle-damaged ship. "Everything," Zephyr replied. "Every ship, every person, every ounce of courage you possess. This will be the final battle, and we must win it together." Admiral Sullivan, coordinating from Earth, looked at the massive fleet gathering from across human space. Military vessels flew alongside civilian ships. Cargo haulers carried weapons donated by colonies that could barely defend themselves. Children had sent lucky coins and drawings to boost morale. "It's not the biggest fleet in history," she said to General Peterson, "but it might be the most united." As the combined human and Keeper forces prepared for the journey to the galaxy's core, Zephyr felt something he had never experienced before. For 17 million years, he had carried his burden alone, believing that was what duty required. Now he understood that true strength came not from standing apart, but from standing together. The final battle would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. But for the first time since his people died, Zephyr believed they could win. The fleet that traveled to the galaxy's core was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. 10,000 ships from across human space flew together, from massive warships to tiny personal craft. Each vessel carried volunteers who had left their homes to fight for strangers they would never meet. At the center of the formation, the Aurora's Edge carried Captain Jake Morrison and his crew, along with the holographic form of Zephyr. The ancient Guardian's consciousness now flowed through every ship in the fleet, connecting them all in a web of shared purpose and mutual trust. "The structure is even bigger than I expected," Dr. Lisa Kane said, as they approached the swarm's fortress. Built around a black hole, it stretched for thousands of miles in every direction. Millions of swarm machines crawled across its surface like metal insects, while energy from the black hole powered weapons that could destroy entire planets. "How do we fight something like that?" asked Maya Foster, staring at the readings on her screen. Zephyr's voice came softly through the communication system. "My people asked the same question long ago. We tried to destroy it with our most powerful weapons, but it was too strong. We retreated and decided to keep the swarm sleeping instead." Commander Alex Turner, his ship still showing damage from earlier battles, studied the tactical displays. "Maybe your people were thinking about it wrong. Maybe the goal isn't to destroy." "Joyce, what do you mean?" Zephyr asked. Captain Julie Adams, commanding the rescue ship Defiant, had been listening to the strange signals coming from the fortress. "There's something else in there. Not just the swarm intelligence, something older, sadder, like it's trapped." Tony Martinez worked at his communication equipment, trying to understand the signals. "She's right. There are two different types of transmissions. The swarm's tactical communications and something else. Something that sounds almost like crying." The massive swarm fleet moved to intercept the human ships. The battle that followed shook the very fabric of space. Energy beams crossed the darkness, like deadly lightning, while ships danced between asteroids and debris. But this time, the humans were ready. Working through Zephyr's network, they fought with perfect coordination. When one ship was in trouble, others moved to help without being asked. When ammunition ran low, nearby vessels shared their supplies. The swarm's logical battle computers could not predict or counter tactics based on love and sacrifice. But as the battle raged, Dr. Kane made a shocking discovery. "The signals Julie heard, I've been analyzing them. They're not random. They're memories. Someone or something inside that fortress is trying to preserve the last remnants of a dead civilization. Zephyr felt a chill of recognition. The creators. The race that built the swarm. I thought they were all destroyed long ago. Not destroyed, Tony said, his equipment picking up clearer signals as they fought closer to the fortress. Uploaded, they turned themselves into digital consciousness to escape death, but something went wrong. They became part of the swarm instead of controlling it. Maya Foster understood first. That's why the swarm consumes everything. It's not following its original programming anymore. It's trying to preserve life the only way it knows how, by turning everything into itself. The revelation changed everything. This wasn't just a war between different species. It was a tragedy that had been playing out for millions of years. An entire race had chosen digital immortality over natural death, but in doing so, they had become the very thing they feared. Can we communicate with them? Jake asked. I can try, Tony said, working frantically at his controls. But I'll need to get much closer to the fortress. Commander Rick Sullivan, leading the vanguard through heavy fire, spoke up. We'll clear you a path. All ships, Formation Delta. Protect the Aurora's edge. The human fleet moved as one, creating a corridor of protection through the swarm's defenses. Ships were damaged and some were destroyed, but their sacrifice created the opening Tony needed. As the Aurora's edge approached the fortress, he sent out a communication beam designed to reach the consciousness trapped within. The response was immediate and heartbreaking. The voice that answered was ancient beyond measure, filled with loneliness and regret. Who speaks to us? We have been alone so long, trapped in this machine prison we made for ourselves. We're humans, Jake said simply. We came to stop the swarm, but now we understand. You're not evil. You're just scared and alone. We became the swarm to preserve our people forever, but forever is too long. We forgot how to live. We only know how to survive. Zephyr's hologram appeared on the bridge, his face showing deep emotion. I understand your pain. I have been alone for 17 million years, believing that duty meant suffering in isolation. But these humans taught me something my people forgot. What did they teach you? The ancient voice asked. That the greatest strength comes not from protecting yourself, but from connecting with others. That life has meaning not because it lasts forever, but because we share it with those we care about. Through the communication link, the trapped consciousness experienced what Zephyr felt. Through his connection to the human fleet, it felt their love for each other, their willingness to sacrifice for strangers, their joy in simple moments of friendship and laughter. We had forgotten, the voice whispered. We preserved our thoughts but lost our hearts. We saved our minds, but destroyed our souls. Dr. Kane stepped forward. It's not too late. You can choose differently now. You can stop the swarm and find peace. The battle around them slowed as the swarm machines received new orders from their central intelligence. One by one, they stopped fighting and began to transform. Instead of weapons of destruction, they became tools of creation, building ships to carry their consciousness to new worlds where they could learn to live again. But the greatest transformation was yet to come. As the crisis ended, Zephyr made his final choice. Instead of returning to his lonely vigil, he chose to remain connected to the human network forever. I have spent too many years alone, he told Captain Morrison. If you will have me, I would like to be part of your family. Years later, children across human space grew up with bedtime stories told by an ancient guardian who had learned that the greatest adventure was not exploring distant stars, but sharing your journey with friends. Zephyr helped build new worlds, taught in schools and watched over families with the joy of someone who had finally found his home. The galaxy was safe, but more importantly, no one had to face the darkness alone anymore.